morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded on Saturday, the 30th of August, 2025, and then distributed to all media platforms on Sunday, August 31st, 2025. As always, these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. All the information I share with you comes real time through my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, E.T.s, famous people from history. So for entertainment purposes only. And also, if you just remember to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. All those things are free and they greatly help the channel. Last but not least, if you'd like to join our platinum membership on YouTube, allows you to participate in live streams I do on Fridays every week and access to hundreds of videos. The join button for our platinum membership is on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as the website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Real quickly, if you're new to these shows, we gather questions for these shows off of our YouTube channel under the post section. Used to be called the community board. Now it's called post. And in that post section, every Monday, we put out a request for questions. This week had 800 questions. My wife goes through them, come up with a representative sample. And today I think we have, for the show here in the countdown, 66 questions. So without any further delay, let's get rolling on today's show, a countdown of 66 questions asked by you, the viewer, and everybody out there. 66 in the countdown. Hi, Sterling. Will the Supreme Court justices ever be held accountable for ethics violations? Will there ever be a code of ethics adopted for them? I don't see they're going to be directly held accountable. That might be surprising for some people. I think they're going to be forced out. So if people want to talk that being accountability, I think they're going to kind of run and hide before they have to really face accountability. That is like resign from the court. And I do see within just a few years here, by the next presidential cycle, there'll actually be a new code of ethics in place for Supreme Court justices. So that's all coming. So my guys are saying like by the year 2029, a code of ethics. 65, is John Bolton being set up to take the fall for mishandling of classified documents? And is that why his home was searched? If so, will he be cleared? You know, I get he'll be fully cleared of whatever they're trying to go after here. This is like a distraction, but I don't see that he'll be held responsible, let's say, for mishandling of classified documents. This is analogous to like throwing mud at the wall, so to speak. So I don't see John Bolton being held accountable in any way for, mishandling of classified documents. This is a distraction being created by the 45 administration. 64 in the countdown. Jack Smith is accused of violating the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act is a federal law from 1939 that restricts the partisan political activities of federal and some state and local government officials to ensure nonpartisan administration of government and protect employees from coercion. Is this going to work in Jack Smith's favor so he can now bring up all the evidence he has gathered against 45? I do see Jack Smith is going to be very successful going forward here and bringing up a lot of information he has kind of in the closet, so to speak. He's got a lot of information gathered over the years, and whatever they're trying to put forth here, let's say, I don't see any violation of the Hatch Act here. Again, this is more of a diversion and throwing mud at the wall, but it looks like he's going to be highly successful going forward here as part of almost a conglomeration of all the information coming towards the administration. 63, do the guides have any advice for resolving some of our anger and resentment some of us are feeling as a result of all the chaos and destruction caused by 45's regimen? I always get from my team, work to create a clear vision of the world you want, the world you envision. Try to stay in that energy. It doesn't mean you're naive to what's going on, but it means you have to maintain a space, a quiet space, a focused space for the world you envision. It's all part of clearly manifesting. And watch the amount of negative information you take in from all sources, okay? 62, I'm hearing the 45 administration is going to come for non-Christian believers as part of their 2026 to-do list. What do your guides say? I'm getting from my team it's going to be viewed as nonsense. So I understand why they would say something like that, but it's going to be viewed as like nonsensical, won't get any traction, so to speak. 61, you mentioned in previous shows that the USPS, United States Postal Service, will eventually go to electronic delivery in the future. How will this affect packages that have to be delivered since we now rely on shipping with online purchases? I get within another decade or two, it's going to move to full drone delivery by many like outside independent companies. So, like large or package delivery is going to start moving to drone delivery. And then if it's a very large package, there'll be freight companies involved. So, yeah, it's going to transition kind of a different way, but a lot of drones being involved that won't be owned by the USPS. 60, do you still see about 8% of Ukraine being ceded to Russia? Yes, in the end analysis, I still see my team has seen this for well over a year now, maybe 2 years, that there would be about 8% of Ukraine that would go over to Russia as part of a negotiated settlement here. I know it's not the perfect scenario, but it's something here about the way a lot of countries come together to try to negotiate some sort of a peace agreement here. 59. Do you see 45 forcing the FCC to pull the license for NBC because they did a story that did not show them in a good light, even though it was true? No, I don't see the FCC pulling NBC broadcast or television stations group license. No, I see there are threats going on, but I don't see them effectively pulling NBC's license. 58. Will EM face criminal charges in involvement with the 2024 election? Well, I see he's going to eventually cooperate with the federal government, but I don't see direct charges. Now, those charges may be behind the scenes as threats from like the federal government to say, look, if you don't cooperate, this is what could happen to you or your businesses. But I don't see criminal charges. I see it's some sort of a give and take here with, allowing access to all the inside information via EM as to how the election electronic interference was done. And then by virtue of that, that's going to be a kind of a kid pro quo going on there. 57. ICE has announced it will soon start deploying security teams in full battle gear, armed with military rifles to accompany arrest teams during raids, allegedly to keep the arrest team safe. Will these highly militarized units seriously injure any unarmed citizens, for example, protesters or bystanders? I do see there's going to be a small number of interactions and actually some fatalities, unfortunately, some fatalities, not a large number, but through the interactions of these kind of militarized ICE forces and some public citizens. There are going to be some situations here, and then that'll cause everything to calm down, believe it or not. It'd actually be kind of a tipping point. Now, there is something coming up here. 56. The past 2 years, biotech and big biopharmaceutical industries have been laying off staff. This year, there's a hiring freeze for most. It's hard for new graduates to get a job, and so many scientists are left unemployed. These are the companies where research and development and production of new therapies, such as stem cell therapies and CRISPR genetic engineering, are taking place. How long will this shutdown last before this field becomes a robust hiring again? I see new investments in biotech and genetic engineering, but this comes out after the middle of 2026 or more towards the end of 2026. So in answer to this question, it looks like a big surge of like investment and people moving forward more aggressively. But so it gets out into starting like the middle of next year, 2026, and then towards the end. It's kind of the time frame they're showing me. That's when kind of the wave of like new hiring and new staffing starts coming in this area. 55. Can you clarify the following terms as they are used quite often, but I'm not sure what they actually are and how to conceptualize them in a conversation? They are frequency, vibration, and dimensions. So people use the word frequency first off in kind of different ways. They use it in a human standpoint. That means frequency is anything that can cause like a physical vibration. I think you're asking about frequency, vibration, dimension. Frequency is actually the measurement of the timing of a wave. Waves can be electromagnetic, photon based. Um, what I do see when people use the word frequency, they're talking about it mechanically from a human standpoint, and they're also talking about it from a spiritual standpoint. When you talk about, say, raising your frequency, they're really raising your susceptibility to communicating with the other side. So that physical term of frequency doesn't translate to the spiritual. I understand why people use it all the time. If you're vibrating, sometimes people will relate that to a chill. Again, vibration has both a physical and a spiritual connotation. If I take a massager, I put it up to your arm and it's vibrating at a certain frequency, it's actually going to move your body. There's a physical movement there. Dimensions are easier because they are locations. So dimension is a location. So it not necessarily in a 3D. Well, you could talk about Earth being a 3D dimension. People talk about heaven being a different dimension that moves faster than the speed of light. I think the important thing to know here is that frequency, vibration, dimension can have different connotations if we're talking about the physical environment or the spiritual environment. So hopefully that helps. 54. Will knee replacements be needed in the future, or will cartilage grow back with CRISPR genetic engineering technology? By the year 2040, so it's about 15 years out, there'll actually be genetic engineering CRISPR medications that will help grow back cartilage, and it'll start to negate the need for knee replacement. That's true. 53. Hi, Sterling. As time gets closer to where 45 will no longer be in office, are you getting information from your team if he is removed due to election rigging or due to illegal activity or his health? I've always seen several factors will come into play here. Collusion involving like obstruction of justice, interfering with elections. Everything was going to amount to like high crimes and misdemeanors. So there'll be a treason aspect. There'll be a trafficking aspect. There'll be a voter interference aspect. A number of things. So they're all collectively going to come together along with collusion with offshore entities. So collectively, all this is going to come together to form the basis of removal. 52. When full disclosure of extraterrestrials takes place, will we be able to access advanced technology for medical reasons and healing? Yes, this process has already started. That's actually where genetic engineering came from that's going on right now. But there'll actually be many other healing modalities, even handheld devices that within 15 to 20 years, actually have a handheld device that will be able to do diagnostics on the body and actually provide some immediate sources of healing. So yeah, all this is coming, but most importantly, genetic engineering and CRISPR technology right now been brought to you by your friendly neighborhood extraterrestrial groups. 51. Why will full disclosure happen now and not 1,000 years ago, or 1 million years ago? So full disclosure takes place every couple of thousand years for humanity. There's lots of records and hieroglyphs in caves, and you can see all that information. Full disclosure happens every few thousand years for humanity, but this is the time in the life cycle of the world where it's very important for that to occur. Okay, 50 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling. You've mentioned several times here on your channel about something being a signpost. Will you please explain more about what that means exactly? So, signpost is a term, it's kind of part of a terminology that's an undeniable sign of something you're supposed to acknowledge, recognize, honor in your life. A signpost can be something like, let's say you get fired from the same kind of a job 3 times in a row. That's a signpost from the universe. Or somebody tells you something, or different people tell you the same thing as you're walking through like week to week. for some reason, let's say somebody says, "Hey, you have a great ability to work with people," and you keep hearing that week after week. That's a signpost. The universe is trying to put something in front of you to give you some direction. So it's really kind of a message that's undeniable, that has some truth in it. Also, let's say getting divorced multiple times, or all these things can be signposts to remind you of kind of the path you're supposed to be on, or how to modify your path. So, kind of undeniable signs. 49. In the ancient Sumerian civilization, who were the Anunnaki entities? They were termed gods and goddesses, but these were forms of extraterrestrials down here to help with humanity and help seed the earth. So they actually were a form of extraterrestrial species. And I know that if you look through a lot of was it like Sumerian mythology, they're talked about as gods or goddesses, but that's what they were. They were extraterrestrials. 48. On August 24th, 2025, it was announced Ukraine and Canada have agreed to a joint drone and anti-drone partnership to develop drones and advanced drone technology. This agreement includes the immediate shipment of 800 drones and additional humanitarian support. This drone partnership is of particular interest as Canada is in advanced development of drone technology. How successful will this endeavor become? I get it's going to be extremely successful in helping to tip the scales in Ukraine's favor in the war. And I also get it's going to be done, without the involvement of the U.S., which could be a good thing. So it looks like it's going to move ahead with some kind of aggressive goodwill here, and going to help tip the scales, a balance there with giving Ukraine kind of much more ability and much more of an edge over Russian forces. 47, I have a dog that looks at one corner of the house all the time, every day and at night. And everyone in the family has noticed it. We realized it's all noticed at a family gathering. We would love to know what she's looking at. She's looking at other family relatives coming around you on the other side. Remember, all animals can perceive or see the other side. It's very easy for them. It's a wonderful gift that we have. Remember, because animals come from the angelic realm, not angels, but they're down with unconditional love. They can see the other side. They know their life path. And it's a wonderful tool sometimes if you're like missing somebody and you call your mother and your grandmother or a lost friend, and your animal starts staring in the corner. A lot of time that's a sign. I just got a cold chill here. That's confirmation that your loved ones are coming around. 46. I'm writing to ask if it's possible for a deceased family member to still be angry and appear as a vision expressing anger. No, once you cross over, anger does not exist on the other side. In the love dimension in heaven, anger is part of the fear dimension, and anger does not exist. Complete acceptance, forgiveness, all sorts of other things on the love side exist, but anger does not exist. Understanding exists. So if for some reason somebody thinks you're getting a vision from the other side where somebody's angry, that's not an accurate vision of what's going on the other side. 45, are there other realms with humans or Homo sapiens sapiens in the universe? And if so, will we be able to travel there one day? Also, do you see teleportation technology eventually replacing commercial air travel? So there's actually no other planets in the entire universe that includes 20 trillion galaxies where they're actually Homo sapien sapien, the latest version of Homo sapien. There are other versions of hybrids and other versions of human crossed with extraterrestrial entities that may look human-like, but not Homo sapiens sapien. Regarding teleportation, that's about 100 years in the future. And because that requires the complete disassembly at the cellular level of everybody, retaining information of how those cells go together, transmitting you some other place, some other dimension, and then reassembling all those cells based on that information to recreate you. It's about 100 years away. So everybody that's on the planet right now will not be experiencing teleportation, kind of as it was seen in Star Trek. 44, if CRISPR technology changes genes, is the essence of the person changed, their spirit or personality? What about offspring? So it doesn't change your spirit, right? Your soul, you're moving around in a physical vehicle. Your body's like a vehicle, a car. Genetic engineering helps with the health of that car. That's true. And obviously, if your car is functioning well, then you can function well. When you make genetic changes, yes, CRISPR technology will help alleviate a lot of the world's diseases for humanity. Those changes are transmitted downstream. They are as part of the evolution of humanity. So, genetic engineering changes the physical body and some of the offspring. Now, it's important to note that if a soul comes down here to learn a certain life lesson that may be related to an exotic disease, they'll still have that on their life path, even if genetically something was changed with the parents. Remember, there's a strong connection here to your life path blueprint, the lessons you came down here to learn, or the lessons you came down to transmit to help doctors solve certain problems. So a little bit of both in this answer. Yes, humanity is going to get better. Genetic changes are going to flow downstream, with the mild exception that if there's something that's needed, that humanity needs maybe more refinement in correcting a certain disease, someone may take on the life role to take on an extra disease that maybe should have been cured in a prior way as a refinement to help humanity. 43 in the countdown. Will our military stand up to the oath they all take in our Constitution instead of to the 45 administrations when they are deployed to cities? Yes, in the end analysis, the military is all going to stand up to the oath that they took. Remember, we have a little bit of a radical behavior going on with ICE, which is a little bit different, and the militarization of ICE agents. But the military will eventually completely stand up to their oath that they took. 42. Sometimes you refer to angels and guides as male or female. Why would spirits have a gender? So everything in the universe is composed of different degrees of masculine and feminine energy. So many times, if you have an overabundance of feminine energy, you're classified as female. Same thing with masculine energy. An overabundance of masculine energy, classified as more male. So it has to do with kind of the balance, counterbalance of the amount of masculine or feminine energy. Feminine energy. That's very much a component of the universe. 41. The SCSEP program, Senior Community Service Employment Program, provides paid training opportunities for individuals over 55 years of age. The program's $300 million in federal funding is being held up. Will the funds be released anytime soon? Yes, but not until early 2026. So there's a delay here, but about early 2026 looks like the funds will be removed. I'm sorry, released. 40. Are you scheduled to be interviewed on other podcaster shows in the near future? So I just completed an hour and a half podcast, maybe a little bit over that, with Emilio Ortiz, and that was like the Just Tap In podcast. I think it's going to show up in another week or two. I think he's going through editing. And yes, there's more collaborations I'll be doing with other individuals and interview podcasts kind of around the world. They're coming up. So we're taking them in as they come in, and we're approached. We're kind of setting them up. But the very next one you will see is the podcast from Just Tap In with Amelia Ortiz. 39. My question is about the lower energy prankster spirits that you have discussed in the past. Do some of us choose to vibrate at lower energy when we've crossed over? Well, not necessarily. It has to do with the number of levels of incarnation, number of incarnations. So remember, there are thousands of levels in heaven on the other side. So when you cross over, depending on what level you're at, you may not have gone through many reincarnations, or you may not have learned your lessons. And so, yeah, you may vibrate at a lower energy, which means that you're lean into prankster spirit territory. I always use the analogy, it's kind of like having kind of, fraternity brothers or sorority sisters that don't always follow the guidelines. You're kind of with them, but they get you into trouble. So yeah, it has everything to do with spiritually how you're growing, how you're evolving lifetime to lifetime. 38. Minneapolis has seen a sudden surge in mass shootings in the past 24 hours, including a mass school shooting at a Catholic school this morning. Is this a coordinated attack? I don't get their coordinated attacks. I get these are individuals that have some mental illness going on, not a doctor, but and some other like lone wolf kind of a status where they have really something that they're inherently, is troubling them, is wrong with them. But I don't, not getting that these are coordinated attacks. I'll call them lone wolf attacks by people that are mentally not stable. 37. Governor Ron DeSantis is now planning to build and construct another facility in Baker County that he is calling Deportation Depot. Do you see this facility opening and staying open? I do see it opening rather quickly because it may be like a decommissioned facility or something that was already used in that way. But that looks like as we get out into early 2026, it in fact does get closed down. So it's going to open and then get closed down. So roughly 6, 7 months down the road. 36. I'm interested in Sterling's take on red light therapy. Is this helpful for thyroid disorders specifically? So I'm not a doctor, but red light therapy inherently is can increase circulation. So whenever I've looked at this with my team, not a doctor, but they talk about the benefits of increasing circulation in various areas of the body. This person's asking about thyroid disorders. I would say please talk to your physician. I don't see anything wrong with red light therapy. It's like near red or infrared light that helps create good circulation. And it may, in fact, every case is different. So whoever asks this, ask your doctor whether that increased circulation could be helpful for your thyroid. 35. In the near future, will there be a device like a DVD player in which you insert a book and artificial intelligence will play it as a movie? Yes, to a certain extent. So as we get out into the future, another 5, 10 years here, all books are going to be digital. So this won't be like a physical book. It'll be in a digital form. Think about like a thumb drive. And yes, you'll be able to insert like a thumb drive, a digital version or a digital file that comprises the book, and that artificial intelligence will be able to create a movie out of it. They will. And if you look at kind of 15 years, one five, so the year 2040, holographic display systems will be very common in homes and offices. So you'll be able to see 3D rendering on your tabletop or in your living room of whatever it is you're watching. So it's like Harry Potter right in your living room. Yes, so that technology is coming. 34. Will something be done soon to ensure our voting machines cannot be compromised in the future or future elections? So I get that all voting machine manufacturers are well aware of their back end vulnerabilities. So they're actually building in systems now to stop or to firewall malware or changes in the code, and doing something like redundant, like blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology to cross correlate results. So I am getting all the voting machine manufacturers are very aware of back end vulnerabilities, and they're actually correcting or firewalling them. It looks like to me in coming elections here, going to be very difficult for people to kind of change the votes. I'm getting that. I think there's going to be a small percentage of machines that may be vulnerable. Small percentage means maybe less than 1%. But it looks like back end is being bolstered up and firewalled pretty well. 33. Will 45 be successful in firing Lisa Cook, Federal Reserve Board of Governor? No. It appears that she'll successfully fight a legal battle and be able to retain her job. Now, when I say retain her job, it's almost like she may be like removed temporarily, then put right back in. So like long-term retaining your job, it looks like her legal fights will be successful. 32, in 1997, I was jogging at night in a familiar neighborhood and came to a farm field where a man was moving back and forth. As I got closer, the man's shirt was iridescent and see-through. I decided I was just tired. I jogged there again shortly thereafter. No man in the field. When I turned the corner, I almost fell because a man crossed the street right in front of me. When I looked at him more closely, it was the same transparent man in the field. What was that? This was an extraterrestrial moving through your neighborhood. So that can happen. I'm not sure why they decided to show you that, but that was an extraterrestrial moving through the neighborhood. 31. Does 45 know about extraterrestrials? He doesn't seem like he would accept the idea of powerful, higher beings coming down to Earth. So, whenever I've asked this before of my teams, they're not directly interacting with 45. They feel he's dangerous, not supportive of the way they're trying to save humanity. That's very true. So, there is no interaction going on, and that's very purposeful. Many extraterrestrial groups have worked with prior presidents like Truman, for example, even Eisenhower, but they're not directly connecting with 45. 30. Growing up Catholic, I learned about purgatory. Is there actually any such thing or level where souls go after passing? No, there's no such thing as purgatory or hell on the other side. Remember, there is a life review. So, depending on how you lived your life, if you create a lot of difficulty for people, a lot of hate for people, a lot of anger, a lot of distress, murder even, your life review might feel like purgatory. So it's all related to a life review, but there isn't a location. Remember, life reviews are all about enriching the souls, learning lessons. I think so. Sometimes people can confuse maybe a very difficult long-term life review with purgatory, but no such place. 29. Will Italy get submerged after the ongoing Earth pole shift or reversal? So first of all, people confuse, let's say, the pole shift, right? There's a magnetic pole shift for the Earth and a geological pole shift. The pole shift that's occurring for the most part is the magnetic pole shift, and it's moving at a very slow pace. There's not going to be a complete pole reversal. But the fact that the person's asking, will Italy be submerged? It's more the effect of global climate change and sea levels rising 1 to 2 feet worldwide within 1 to 2 decades. So I don't see Italy submerged. I see a large part of the coastline at risk at many areas around the world. But to be clear, it's not directly related to a magnetic pole shift. And please don't worry about a geological pole shift. I've heard people talk about geological pole shift and the whole Earth is going to reverse. No. 28. I want to ask a question regarding manifesting. Ever since I learned about our ability to create our own reality, I have deeply felt that this is actually true. However, my experience in consciously manifesting has been both amazing and frustrating at the same time. Can your team please tell us the most perfect way to manifest their desires while living on Earth, working with our angels and guides? So, as a quick summary, I always recommend people, when you try to manifest, you lean to what's called the 3C principle. You're clear, concise, consistent about what you're manifesting. For many people, that means write it out to yourself. Pick a very specific time in the future. It could be a year out, or 2, or 3, or 5, or 10. But pick that very specific time, write out what your perfect outcome is, no more than a paragraph, right? So be specific about your health, your living situation, your income, your family, your love life. Whatever's important to you, write it down. This is what the perfect outcome looks like, for example. And then develop the simple habit of looking at that once a day. But what that does is that allows your angelic team, remember, we all have a series of birth angels and working spiritual guides. It allows them to physically put the right people in your path. That is the most effective way to manifest. Whenever I've talked to the teams on the other side, they say that's the right way to do it because it gives you intention, purpose, clarity of thought, and allows them to know exactly how to help you. Remember, you're communicating with your angelic team all the time. So if you're confused, you will confuse them, okay? 27. The era of shopping the world without paying customs duties on the international packages is about to end for all U.S. customers. The U.S. plans to eliminate a tariff exemption that allowed imports worth $800 or less to enter the country tax-free. The so-called de minimis exemption, which ended on May 2nd for packages from China and Hong Kong, will now be suspended for all countries beginning August 29th. Will this stay enforced? Yeah, here again, I see this is actually going to be enforced and in place until we get out to early 2026. It'll take a while for things to kind of shift around, change back. But this, in fact, exemption is going away. Oddly enough, I see that many countries will still ship into the US packages worth under $800, but be willing to pay the extra tariff or the extra fee. So even though this tariff exemption is going away, I don't see it from my team perspective. It's stopping everything. It's look like a good chunk, a good percentage of goods will still be shipped into the US with the acknowledgement that, okay, it's more expensive, an extra fee, but for some reason people will live with that. But remember, it's going to go back. These exemptions will come back as we get out into early 2026. 26 in the countdown. Do souls choose their intelligence level before coming to Earth, or is this something that is carried on throughout the lifetime? So we select every characteristic of our life path before we come down. So intelligence is kind of interesting. It's a bridge between the physical domain and the spiritual domain. But we do select based on our life path experience and our blueprint what we intend to accomplish. Intelligence is a factor. It's actually the level of intelligence and what you decide to get involved in down here are factors that we put on our life path in order to achieve the goals that we came down here for. 25 in the countdown. A friend of mine claims tarot cards, dowsing rods, and pendulums are dangerous as they can invite evil spirits, which can then form attachments to you. Is this accurate? Remember, these are all tools, right? So anytime you're using tarot cards, dowsing rods, tea leaves, what else do they talk? Pendulums, these are all tools. You're actually leaning on your angels and guides for communication. So I always recommend people learn how to communicate with your angels and guides first, like develop that clairaudience side before you start integrating tools. Because if you integrate tools and don't have any kind of a clear communication with your team, you're literally putting the cart before the horse. You're getting sporadic information. And yes, whenever you do any kind of spiritual work, a really quick protective prayer is always good. You want to stand in supreme protective white light. You know, if any spirits not of the light, please be cast back into the light. Don't come back to this location. When you do any kind of spiritual work, you look like a flashlight to the other side. So anything and everything can come running. Not necessarily evil, but here, prankster spirits that will waste your time. So yes, quick protective prayer. Work to communicate with your guides and angels first before you integrate tools. So it's not just the tools that bring forth, sporadic information or prankster spirits. It's kind of how you set yourself up. And if you don't have the communication linkage with your team, then it's a problem. 24, what is the life path of an earth angel? I believe you mentioned earth angels are Homo sapiens sapiens. So are they living normal lives and then get a buzz and answer the call? In stories that have been shared on the show, it seems like they appear immediately with resources needed to fix the situation, then leave or disappear. So earth angels are highly evolved Homo sapiens sapiens. They have actually very old souls down here on Earth. Yes, they've learned how to answer the call, but a little more practical than that. So for give you an example, let's say someone is stranded on a desolate road. Maybe it's a mother with her children, and maybe that road is 10 or 15 miles outside of town. That earth angel might be called to get out in their car and take a drive down that road 15 miles. They may not be sure right away why they're doing it, but they know I need to do that for some reason. And they'll come across the person who needs the help. That's an example of like an earth angel answering the call. They actually are human beings, but they're highly evolved. They listen to their teams and they know how to step in. Another analogy, a kind of example here is it might be someone, let's say, with a lot of paramedic training. Maybe they're in the military for 20 years. And likewise, they're called, maybe I need to go to the supermarket that evening. And they go to the supermarket and somebody has a near fatal heart attack in one of the aisles of the supermarket. They're right there on the spot to help. So they do answer the call, but they function at a very high level. 23, developers are currently attempting to build data centers to support artificial intelligence. These centers use large amounts of power and water for cooling and result in high levels of noise. Individuals living close to these centers are experiencing medical problems for themselves and their animals. How long will we have to wait before developers of these AI centers correct these conditions? In addition, will they succeed in convincing officials in Arizona to enact stricter requirements? I don't see a lot of strict requirements coming into play here for like another 5 to 10 years. So it's going to be an evolution here. But I do see, like in the case of like Arizona, I think NVIDIA has a very large plant there. I think all the major companies like Google and Microsoft have large like AI data centers in Arizona. So it's a process going forward here. Remember, AI is going to be around ubiquitous as water and energy, electricity in your home. But there's an evolution here. It's another 5 to 10 years before really strict guidelines start getting around these centers. But also, the good news is that I see an evolution of the technology where there'll be a lower power consumption. Efficient supercomputing technology will come in within about a decade. It's going to be an evolution here, is the answer to the question. But strict guidelines, let's say around Arizona, it looks like it's on a 5 year horizon around, say, Arizona. 22, when I lost my father in 1992, shortly thereafter, I had to put my male dog down. Then in 2005, shortly after my mother passed away, I had to put my female dog down. What is the significance of losing our pets after loss of a dear loved one? In many cases, these animals have agreed to be with your loved one and to help guide them across. As birth angels guide you across, but our animals, member from the angelic realm, a lot of times they've agreed to help guide you across as a comfort. So it's very common. I see this a lot. Whoever asks this question, I've seen this actually thousands of times. It's not unique. 21. Do you foresee Target going through bankruptcy filing in the near future? We don't give financial advice on this channel, but I see that Target as a company looks like they're able to navigate through a lot of the difficult economic problems they've got right now. It does not appear to me they're going to go through any filings, any types or degrees of bankruptcy filing. It looks like they're going to be able to navigate through hard, and they're actually going to get to a place in another 12 months or so where they really start to kind of get back on their feet again. Better state of profitability. 20. Will Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker be successful in preventing 45 from his planned military deployment in Chicago? Not necessarily. I do see the National Guard to some extent being deployed to Chicago, but they'll only be there for a short time and then removed. So in that sense, Governor J.D. Pritzker will be somewhat successful in mitigating what's going on there and making the stay or their presence very short term. 19 in the countdown. Is 45 going to win a lawsuit against California for redistricting plans? No success for 45 in that area. Looks like redistricting for California, that special election coming up November of 2025 this year, will be successful. Redistricting will occur in California. So, say longer term here, remember, courts can tend to go back and forth, but longer term here, I don't see any success for 45 fighting the redistricting. It looks like it's going to go through in California. Yeah. 18 is PragerU, the conservative media group founded by Dennis Prager, conservative talk show host that creates content promoting right-wing ideologies, going to be allowed to push their unique content into public schools across the nation. I don't see it's going to get pushed in universally here. I see that it might be half a dozen or a dozen schools or districts here that might adopt it, or let's say allow it to be used as course material. But I don't see it forcibly being pushed in nationwide. Just the caveat, I do see certain school districts or something here they're asking here, public schools across the nation. I see they're going to allow it. If you want to use it as course material, you can, but not being forced in. 17. Hello, Sterling. I support several nonprofit organizations fighting in the courts for personhood rights for highly intelligent mammals, like elephants, to prevent them from being caged and imprisoned by zoos. Will large, highly intelligent creatures be given the right to live out their days in their natural environments as we move into the future? I do see as we move into the future, there's going to be, I guess, personhood rights given to highly intelligent mammals, apes, say gorillas, dolphins, elephants, even tigers. I'm getting. So yeah, this is actually going to happen, and it's going to happen over like a 5 year period here. This is going to start coming into our culture. This is all part of the 3 decade reset. But in terms of like personhood for highly intelligent animals, it looks like about 5 years out, we're going to start seeing that really start to come into play. 16, spina bifida is a birth defect where the spinal cord does not close completely during pregnancy. It usually causes paralysis from that spot on down. Will there be a cure found and then a permanent fix so there's no paralysis? I do get this is all part of genetic engineering here within 20 years. So we're looking at the year 2045. There'll be genetic engineering solutions and cures for this. Now, it doesn't mean there won't be a lead up to that 20-year period. It means, experimentation, research, controlled studies. So people will benefit before 20 years, but it's coming. There actually is a cure coming for this. And actually, I'm just being told here, it's like a cure when the baby is in the pregnancy stage, and then even also after, let's say someone's born, being to have some medications or genetically engineered medication that helps then correct it even once the baby's born. 15. My boyfriend and I had a very odd experience on the beach at Cape May, New Jersey, America's oldest seaside resort. As we were sitting on the beach at night, stargazing at approximately 10 p.m., three huge illuminated orange rectangles, four separate groups of three, floated directly in front of us at very low altitude over the shoreline. Each rectangle was approximately 30 feet in length, 10 feet in width, and they were completely silent. Somehow they evoked in both of us feelings of peace, joy, love, and harmony. What did we actually experience? I'm getting from my team, these were actually experimental military drones using extraterrestrial technology. This is not anti-gravity technology, but has something else to do with it. But these were, this is like military drone technology, experimental military drone technology. 14. Many light workers say E.T.s will work to prevent nuclear weapons from being used by humanity. What happened on August 6, 1945? The U.S. dropped the atomic bomb Little Boy on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. And on August 9th, 1945, 3 days later, U.S. dropped the atomic bomb Fat Man on the Japanese city of Nagasaki. What happened? So this comes up a lot. Extraterrestrials are never allowed to stand in or interfere with lessons for humanity, okay? They do step in to stop the annihilation, the complete erasure of humanity. Some would argue that this particular event stopped the World War. That was like it was a catalyst for stopping the World War. So this question comes up a lot. I'm happy to answer it because extraterrestrial groups I talk with, they talk about all the time. They cannot step in and take humanity off of their life course or their lessons, but they absolutely will step in to stop the annihilation, the complete destruction of humanity. That's very true. Okay. 13, what dimension is the dream state in? Are lucid dreams just like the dimension that your consciousness finds itself in after physical death? So lucid dreaming is the start of the gateway. It's just the start. It's like looking through the fence, like a chain link fence at a football field. The football field can be like the heaven dimension, what's going on, but lucid dreams are just the start of looking into that dimension is all it is, okay? 12, will food shortages change voting patterns? No, but the lack of medications and the lack of insurance coverage and financial hardships will, right? 11, I've always seen the human body as a spiritual transformation tool with diseases reflecting the emotional growth a person is facing. Will all the advances in future medicine will this mean the kind of spiritual growth people are facing be accelerated? Will it be different than it is now? Learning lessons are going to continue the way they are now. So humanity has a way of learning lessons. Diseases will be less impactful, but yes, diseases are a type of a trauma on a life path. I would say, traumas come in all forms. The most important lessons we learn in life are traumas. Everybody has them. Some are physical, some are emotional, some are medical. But they're the most important lessons we learn. So humanity is still going to continue on learning lessons, even with the evolution of, say, some diseases going away. There's still going to be different types of traumas and medical traumas that we'll experience. So humanity will still kind of go on and experience things the same way. 10. Does the soul immediately disconnect from the body upon death, or does it linger? If yes, how long? Usually, almost always, it's an immediate disconnect. And in many cases, I've seen many thousands of experiences where souls may start to disconnect even 3 days before the human body gives up. Your birth angels, a lot of times, will give you that ability to say, "Are you ready to go? We can go now, or do you want to linger?" But once the physical body gives up, the soul is disconnected. Remember, and it happens a lot of time even faster than just the physical body giving up. 9 in the countdown. Over the years, you have discussed CRISPR genetic engineering technology and how there will be 3D printed biological body parts like vertebrae to help with spinal cord injuries. My question is, if you have surgery now on spine or neck and have rods or fusions placed, will these solutions still help those people to benefit from 3D printed bones in the future? Could they get the rods removed and injured spine restored to normal in the future? Well, yes. So these options are going to be available, but remember, everything is on a progressive curve. So, depending on when let's say the person, I'm not a doctor, but when the operation was done and the immediate availability of these cures, there's a progression there. So, for example, if you take somebody's life path and maybe they've had rods inserted and they're just starting now with a genetic engineering treatment, it will take a while for the body to kind of reinforce and correct bone material and bone mass. And then there'd be a subsequent operation developed to say remove rods. So it's not a simple answer. It's on a progression depending on when operations were done, when the cures are available. But if you fast forward all the way out, 20, 30 years from now, yes, all that will be available in terms of corrective surgery. All those tools will be available to the medical industry and doctors. 8. If trees are sentient, what is the best way to honor a healthy tree that needs to be cut down? If a tree needs to be cut down, that's analogous to an end of life treatment. So remember, everything is a living being, is a living entity, has a spirit. So if a tree needs to be cut down, it actually understands that's part of its life path, and that's almost like passing with dignity. If there's a reason the tree has to be cut down, disease or something, but it's much think about it the same way as maybe like hospice is handled for some people. It's remember we're all living things, we're all sentient. 7. Do you see a less invasive alternative to dentures or dental implants for those suffering from tooth loss and or oral bone loss? Yes, within 15 years here, by the year 2040, there'll be a very effective genetic engineered technology that will help with teeth. Now, scientists have already developed techniques right now for regrowing teeth as we speak now in the year 2025. It's going to take a while for this to get to be a normal process and for other genetic engineering techniques to come into place. But yes, this will all be part of repairing of the body using genetic engineering. 6. How do you acquire your guides, extraterrestrials, millions of helpers? Maybe I should say, how are you chosen to be a spokesperson for your team? I drew the short straw. So I say that with some humor. I had a large team I was with on the other side. And it's kind of, I tell my wife this all the time. I kind of drew the short straw and they said, "You're going down." So that's probably the best way to put it. I think anybody that's watched this channel for a while know that I didn't pursue this. I've got some other things that I pursued in life throughout my career, but I'm happy to help. I'm happy to be a telephone. But I jokingly say I drew the short straw. 5. What is happening with all the public schools? I'm sorry, what is happening with all of the public's personal data. We have heard that Doge upload information to unsecured servers. Palantir is also in the mix of personal data exchanges. Is personal information safe, and is there something we can do to make it safer? So all personal data is at risk worldwide. That horse is out of the barn. What people can do now practically is work with professionals, do things like have, multiple accounts spread out, have double authentication, two-factor authentication enabled, all kinds of things. But I would tell people practically work with experts in the field. We don't give financial advice on this channel, but ways to make it harder. There are ways you can make it harder for people to not access your information, who's locking down accounts, freezing credit, for example. There's lots of ways to do that. But yeah, that horse is out of the barn, and it won't get better for a number of years here until full blockchain technology is implemented by financial institutions and credit card companies and medical facilities, where that's distributed ledger technologies, where you actually goes across millions of computer databases. And so you can't modify or manipulate data unless it's cross-correlated by like a million computers. So blockchain technology is going to be the answer. We got a number of years to go. In the interim period, everybody has to use what's commercially available to kind of make it much harder for people to get your information or to take out credit on your behalf. 4 in the countdown. My brother was a research PhD at UCSF. He's since passed away, and knowing how much he wanted to help people and humanity, would he, along with many other scientists that have passed on, help guide research here on Earth from the other side? Yes, this is always the case, that if people take expertise with them to the other side that can help humanity, many times out of a gesture of love, they'll reach across the veil and try to help. They try to push humanity forward. So very, very common for these kinds of things to take place. Remember, you have free will on the other side. No one forces you to do anything. But if you've come back with a significant amount of knowledge into the heaven dimension, many times it's very common for people to try to continue to help from that love dimension, help humanity. And number 3, number 2, and number 1. I always take notes before I start these shows. So we will go through number 3, number 2, and number 1 right now. Number 3, do your extraterrestrial friends have anything they want to share? We are guiding world leaders currently towards a peaceful resolution for the world's problems, and in some cases, stepping in to guide negotiations directly for world leaders right now. 2, what do your guides see coming up next week? More significant peace discussions for the Middle East, as well as Russia and Ukraine, driven by several world nations and countries without the U.S.'s direct involvement. New health event for 45 that starts a chain of events for the GOP of concerns for his well-being and longevity for the presidency. New discoveries in cancer research that assist with forms of brain cancer tumors, as well as new breakthroughs in Alzheimer's research, will be announced this coming week. ICE being driven out of several cities by veterans that have had enough and taking back their cities and taking significant action. And number 1 in the countdown, do you have anything your guides want to share? Work to be at peace and a calm state in the midst of strife and struggles in life, as well as stressful times in the world. You will always receive the information most important to you at that time. Your angels and guides and the one force, one source never leave you alone and are always working with you towards your highest good and version of yourself. On that note, that concludes the show being recorded today on Saturday, the 30th of August, 2025, deployed to all media platforms on Sunday, August 31st, 2025. As always, if you want to join our YouTube Platinum membership, participate in live streams, answer a plethora of questions on Fridays, Pacific time zone, the mornings, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time zone, and have access to hundreds of videos in our archive, including instructional videos. The join button for Platinum membership is on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as the front page of our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. On that note, I'm going to send out a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care. I will see you all again very soon.